It's okay right now if Louisville doesn't get a number one seed in the Big East tournament. That doesn't really matter. What matters is, and I've said this before, staying in the top four. You want to get that double bye into the quarterfinals of the conference tournament because that increases your chances all the more of winning the entire thing. If Louisville's going to get a number one seed in the NCAA tournament, which is not out of their reach, especially considering all the shifting ahead of them, they have to win their conference tournament. And that's something that they probably will not do if they fall out of the top four. The sarcastic thank you of the week award goes to the Indiana Hoosiers. What are you doing? I just started praising you. And you go and do that against Minnesota? Seriously? I mean, look, Minnesota's a good team. Tubby Smith has got a good team with the Minnesota Golden Gophers this year. But the thing that concerns me is that it seems like every time I start liking Indiana, they go and just have one of those inexplainable games where they just lose. They get manhandled, though, by teams with good front courts. Look at some of the teams that they've lost against. Michigan State played them pretty close. They've lost to Wisconsin, they've lost to Illinois, they've lost to Butler, and now Minnesota. Good front court teams for the most part. The teams that play them close have good front courts. Georgetown, already mentioned Michigan State. Michigan. In that game Tuesday night, Cody Zeller got manhandled. And I mentioned in the last show that I thought he was the most overrated player in the country. Now it's not even a thought. It's a concrete fact. He is the most overrated player in college basketball right now. He comes in as a highly touted big man, and what does he do? He puts up 9 points on 2 of 9 from the field and has 4 turnovers. His counterpart, Trevor Mbakwe, puts up 21 on him. 21! Cody Zeller is a good kid. He's probably going to have a decent career in the NBA as a backup. But you have to be taking a serious antidepressant in order to not see the flaws in this kid's game. He has flaws. He's not a great player. He's not that strong, and he'll get out-muscled by any NBA player that he sees at that 4 spot. Red flag, red flag, red flag. We'll get to some other red flags here in a second, but first, some monumental news coming out of the NFL. It is very rare that you see a trade work to where everyone in the trade benefits from it. But that's what happened last Wednesday whenever Alex Smith got traded to the Kansas City Chiefs from the San Francisco 49ers for a second-round pick this year and a conditional pick next year. For the 49ers, their main goal is to add depth, something that this year's draft can do. It's not a draft that's loaded on star power per se, but it's a draft that has a lot of good quality players that can come in and make immediate contributions. For a team like the 49ers that's already stacked with star power but needs a bit more dependability in certain areas, this is a good draft for them. As good as this trade is for the Niners, though, it's even better for the Chiefs. The Chiefs needed a quarterback badly. There is not a clear-cut franchise quarterback coming out of this year's draft, though. What Alex Smith provides is not a guy that's going to go out and throw 4,500 yards a season and just throw it all around the yard the entire game. What he does provide is someone who can go out and not screw things up constantly for your team. And that's a problem that the Chiefs had last year at this position. The combination of Matt Castle and Brady Quinn last year threw for less than 3,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's it. They need a quarterback, and now they have one. And there's nowhere that this franchise can go but up. They're coming off a 2-14 year. Now they have a new coach and a new quarterback, and hopefully those two things will result in more than 2 wins. The biggest winner in this trade, though, is Alex Smith. In the words of former teammate Joe Staley, left tackle for the 49ers, quote, "I am happy that he is going to get a shot to play somewhere. He is too talented not to," end quote. Alex Smith was going to play somewhere. We all knew that. He was good enough to start last year, and he did for 11 games. And if Kaepernick hadn't played utterly out of his mind whenever Smith went down with that concussion, Alex would have probably remained the starter for the 49ers. Smith is good. He's not great, but he's a good top half of the league quarterback and should fit in very nicely with head coach Andy Reid. Speaking of the NFL, though, the NFL Combine is not a perfect art. It's not. It's not a great way to measure players. Many guys are taken too high or too low based on how good they do in the Combine. Doug Gottlieb from CBS Sports Radio said it best when the reason for falling in love from a managerial standpoint to one particular player is that it is oftentimes the first time that these GMs see these players in person. It's easy to overlook, Gottlieb said, it's easy to overlook a player's faults on tape when you see how good they can be with their combine performance. Is this fair? No, it's not fair. The combine to me is one of the most overhyped, overglorified activities in the world of professional sports. It's like a baseball player doing well in spring training. I really just don't care. Show me what you got on the field when the game really matters. In saying that, though, there have been some major red flags coming out of the Manti Te'o camp that have escalated in the combine. I really didn't care that much about the fake girlfriend story. It was an interesting story, but it wasn't anything more than that, and it's not, in my mind, going to impact his draft stock at all. The story proves to me that he's gullible. There have been worries that maybe he's gay and that this is his way of masking his sexual identity. I really just don't care. You're taken as a player for what you do on the field, not whether or not you're gay or you have an imaginary girlfriend. It's what you do on the field that counts, not what you do off of it. With that said, though, Te'o has not helped himself with this combine. Did anybody watch the BCS championship game? Te'o was slow. And I'm not talking about the, he had trouble covering slot receivers slow. He was getting beat by linemen. Linemen. You know the guys that are in the clubhouse eating chicken fingers before the game? Yeah, those were the guys that were beating him with speed. But I didn't realize he was this slow. In the combine, his official time, I believe, was 4.82 in the 40-yard dash. Basically, any NFL opponent with any spread offense of any kind, which is pretty much every NFL opponent because all of them have a spread offense, is going to utterly decimate Te'o's impact on the field. Speed is the only thing I care about at the combine because any GM will tell you that you can't coach speed. What do they mean by that? Players can get stronger and smarter throughout an NFL career. They can't get faster. And in fact, they get a lot slower with age. Ask Ray Lewis which Super Bowl he was faster in. The one 12 years ago or the one last February? I guarantee you he's going to say the one 12 years ago. If Te'o can't cover those guys now because of his 40 speed, he's not going to be able to ever cover a player. And that's something that concerns me because a guy that can't stay on the field for 3 downs consistently is not a guy that I would take in a first round.